Look up. For over a century, the history of major European capitals has been defined by smoke and smog. They told you this industrial haze was the natural byproduct of progress, the necessary consequence of coal and steam. This is the final atmospheric deception of the Great Reset. What if the Great Smog of the 19th century was not accidental pollution, but a deliberate, centrally controlled atmospheric cover-up designed to hide the true purpose of the Tartarian cities? Look at the skyline of London or Paris in old photographs. The iconic domes and massive civic buildings were not powered by the filthy systems they claimed. The smoke was engineered to perpetually obscure the massive Tartarian energy spires and domes, preventing the population from seeing the infrastructure of the former, clean energy grid. The smog didn't just hide buildings, it hid entire vanished cities. We have found suppressed maps and architectural plans that show that the famous European capitals were actually massive, interconnected power generators. When the energy failed during the mud flood, whole sections were simply abandoned, then paved over and forgotten. This documentary will expose the real reason for the 19th century's toxic atmosphere and reveal the true purpose of the catacombs beneath Paris. Watch until the very end, subscribe this channel, like this video, and you will learn the exact frequency the controllers use to generate the perpetual smog. The conspiracy is hidden in the air you breathe. The new elite who seized control after the mud flood faced an impossible problem: how to disguise the massive, clean energy infrastructure of Tartaria and normalize the new, profitable coal and oil-based system. Their solution was ingenious: pollution as propaganda. The extreme pollution that choked these cities was deliberately intensified. The constant haze blurred the lines between the colossal Tartarian ruins and the crude 19th century additions, making the architectural anomalies less noticeable. More importantly, the smoke physically obscured the complex network of rooftop energy collectors, the final, undeniable evidence of the free energy grid. The phenomenon of the Great Smog was systematically linked to the idea of prosperity in 19th century propaganda. The message was, smoke means progress, smoke means jobs. This psychological framing ensured that the population tolerated the toxic atmosphere, believing it was a necessary evil, rather than recognizing it as a deliberate act of technological concealment. The cities were massive energy machines. But to power their vast infrastructure, the Tartarians needed far more than surface energy. They needed to tap into the subterranean environment. The next segment will reveal the shocking truth about the enormous sewers and tunnels beneath major cities, proving they were not for waste, but for geothermal energy collection. You are taught that the vast, complex sewer systems beneath cities like Paris and London were built in the 19th century for waste management. This is a crucial lie. These colossal, meticulously engineered tunnels are, in fact, the subterranean power grid of Tartaria, repurposed and mislabeled. The scale of these underground networks is staggering. Their construction required excavation and engineering feats that contradict the claimed capabilities of the 19th century. Furthermore, many sections feature precision stone cutting, non-standard dimensions, and internal geometric arrangements that have no functional purpose for sewage flow. That we believe these massive tunnels were designed for geothermal energy collection and the conduction of ambient energy. Their size was necessary to house the large, internal crystalline conductors and resonators needed to stabilize the Tartarian free energy system. They were the power conduits of the vanished cities that be why labeling them as sewers. The 19th century controllers achieved two things. 1. Concealment. They gave the structures a filthy, repulsive designation, ensuring that no curious citizen or scientist would spend time exploring the engineering that lay beneath. 2. Repurposing. They created a plausible, mundane explanation for the colossal amount of excavation and construction that occurred underground during the 19th century, which was in reality a desperate effort to understand and dismantle the inherited power grid. The energy infrastructure of Tartaria was not just on the rooftops. It extended miles beneath the surface. The controllers' need to maintain this subterfuge confirms their massive logistical power and their total dedication to suppressing the truth about clean energy. the subterranean deception goes deeper. The catacombs beneath cities like Paris, supposedly ancient burial sites, are also part of this concealed infrastructure. The next segment will reveal the terrifying truth about the catacombs and the bizarre crystal skulls found within them, proving they were not graves but Tartarian energy vaults. The catacombs, the vast, winding underground passages beneath major European cities, are celebrated as historical burial sites. This macabre history is a masterpiece of misdirection. The catacombs were not built to house the dead. They are Tartarian structural reinforcement and energy vaults that were seized and repurposed by the 19th century elite. The official story claims the millions of bones were placed there due to overcrowding of surface cemeteries. We believe the bones were intentionally placed there in the 19th century to 1. Distract. The sheer horror and scale of the bones ensured that no one looked at the engineering of the tunnels themselves. 2. Normalize death. It was a psychological tool to normalize the massive, sudden population loss caused by the mud flood and the subsequent elimination campaigns. The true function of the catacombs is revealed by their structural geometry. These tunnels, often carved with precise, intersecting patterns, acted as a massive geological stabilizer for the colossal Tartarian cities above. Furthermore, specific chambers within the catacombs were designed to house high-energy artifacts. The most shocking evidence lies in the rare crystal skulls and strange metallic artifacts that were occasionally unearthed from these catacomb walls. These are not relics. They are Tartarian memory storage devices or energy conduits. The 19th century authorities dismissed them as primitive curiosities or ancient religious icons to hide their technological purpose. The creation of the catacomb tours in the 19th century was the final stage of the propaganda. By turning the inherited infrastructure into a tourist attraction, they solidified the false narrative of tombs and ensured that the structural secrets and energy secrets remained hidden. The atmospheric and subterranean lies secured the cities, but the elite needed to suppress any memory of the superior quality of Tartarian life. The next segment will expose the truth behind the 19th century's most iconic domestic invention, the gas lamp, proving it was a deliberate downgrade used to hide the remnants of Tartaria's ubiquitous, clean, internal lighting system. The gas lamp is the defining icon of the late 19th century. It symbolizes progress, but its widespread introduction was, in fact, a necessary technological downgrade designed to suppress the memory of Tartaria's ubiquitous, clean, and free internal lighting. The Tartarian civilization possessed technology capable of providing perpetual, non-polluting internal illumination, likely based on bioluminescence or small-scale ether cores. The buildings they left behind were pre-wired for this high-quality, clean light. The new elite, establishing monopolies based on oil and coal derivatives, could not allow the population to experience the superior, free lighting of the past. The gas lamp was the perfect replacement. 1. Controllable and metered. Gas required payment, plumbing, and infrastructure, ensuring the new cabal could monetize light. 2. Polluting. The gas lamp emitted soot and heat, contributing to the atmospheric cover-up and further damaging the inherited Tartarian infrastructure. 3. Psychological. The flickering, dim nature of the gaslight created a psychological atmosphere of scarcity and anxiety, contrasting sharply with the bright, stable illumination of the past. The rapid rollout of the gaslight infrastructure in the 19th century was a massive, coordinated effort to physically replace any remnants of the old, free lighting system and erase the memory of its efficiency. The official story of gaslight being a great leap forward is a masterful lie designed to justify the installation of a technologically inferior, but economically profitable, energy system. The contrast between the dim, sputtering gaslight and the magnificent, colossal architecture highlights the scale of the 19th century deception. The people were living inside the world's most advanced structures, powered by the world's most primitive, polluting technology. The gaslight was a technological lie. But the final, most chilling lie lies in the creation of the 19th century's most famous and iconic public space, the massive city parks. The next segment will reveal the shocking evidence that these parks were not for recreation, but were created to hide the remains of Tartarian energy reactors and airship launch pads. The creation of massive, centralized city parks, like Central Park in New York or the vast green spaces in London and Paris, is celebrated as a triumph of 19th century urban planning. This is the final architectural deception. These parks were not created for recreation. They were designed to conceal the most powerful, dangerous Tartarian energy installations. The construction of these parks often involved massive, inexplicable earth-moving and leveling projects, far exceeding the requirements for landscaping. This suggests that the ground beneath the parks was being cleared and covered, that we believe that these green spaces were strategically located over. 1. Tartarian energy reactors. Large, dangerous power hubs that were too unstable or too difficult to dismantle, so they were simply covered with layers of earth and plant life to contain the residual energy. 2. Major airship launch pads. The vast, clear spaces of the park were necessary to hide the scale of the original Tartarian vertical docks and the landing zones for their aerial fleet, which were too large to build on. B. Why turning these zones into parks? The 19th century authorities gave the public supervised access to a zone that was, in fact, a massive military and technological containment area. The public sees relaxation in nature. The controllers see controlled containment and resource denial. The intricate water features and rolling hills often seen in these parks are, in reality, earthworks and drainage systems designed to manage the environmental effects of the buried technology, not simply aesthetics. The picturesque landscape is the final layer of the cover-up that we have exposed the truth about the smoke, the sewers, the gaslight, and the parks. The final, most crucial piece of evidence lies in a single 19th century photograph showing a key architectural structure in Paris, a structure the controllers claimed was under construction. This photograph reveals the exact moment they realized the true extent of the Tartarian energy technology. The controllers of the 19th century were so confident in their deception that they missed one critical piece of evidence. It is a single photograph of Paris, taken during a period of supposed great construction, that exposed their panic surrounding Tartarian energy. This snapshot, dated approximately 1885, shows a massive, ornamental building officially labeled as under reconstruction. But unlike all other official photos, this accidental picture reveals a huge, geometrically perfect, partially dismantled crystalline resonator sticking out of its roof. The photograph was taken during a period when the controllers were forced to execute an emergency dismantling operation on one of the last surviving Tartarian energy reactors in the city center. They could not control it, and it was radiating too much clean energy, contradicting their doctrine of gaslight and scarcity. The image shows pure panic. Workers in primitive protection gear surrounding the resonator, with only a fragile wooden scaffolding erected around it, clearly insufficient to hide or protect the device. It proves the controllers were not building. They were urgently disassembling and hiding the technology. This photograph became one of the most classified in military archives and was quickly replaced with staged roof repair images. This moment was the breaking point. It proved to the controllers that they could not simply use the Tartarian cities. They had to systematically destroy or shut down the energy heart of every major city. Following the gaslight deception, the controllers took the next crucial step. They created a hero and faked the invention of electric light in the 19th century. This was necessary to conceal the fact that electricity, like illumination, was always an integrated part of the Tartarian city design, that we know the story of the lone inventor and his light bulb. But this story is a perfectly staged spectacle. The light they invented was weak, unreliable, and required massive, polluting power stations. This was a deliberate contrast to the free, high-quality, wireless electricity that powered Tartarian cities. The fake invention of electricity was necessary for two reasons. 1. Monopoly creation. It allowed the controllers to establish a financial monopoly on the generation, transmission, and consumption of energy, replacing Tartaria's free network. 2. Plausible explanation. It provided a manufactured reason for the existence of electrical networks and wiring found in the inherited Tartarian buildings. Instead of admitting the wiring was ancient, they claimed cities were quickly electrified after the 1880s. The propaganda of the 19th century turned a simple engineer into a mythological genius to create a line of demarcation between the primitive past and the innovative New World. But evidence shows that Tartarian cities were electrified centuries ago. The new inventions were merely flawed imitations of long-existing technologies that we established that the underground tunnels were energy assets. But did you know that even the rivers running through major cities were not just waterways, but key components of the Tartarian energy network? Rivers flowing through Paris, London, or New York were integrated into the city design, not just for transport or water supply. The Tartarians utilized hydro-resonant technologies. The rivers served as massive conductors and cooling systems for deeply buried geothermal and crystalline reactors. This explains why massive, often senseless, engineering projects occurred on rivers in the 19th century. 1. Canalization and straightening. They were not improving flow. They were isolating the river from the urban environment. The controllers attempted to break the physical and energetic connection between the river and the city's power systems. 2. Massive, unnecessary dams. The construction of dams within cities was not for flood control, but for regulating the flow over crystalline resonators that lay on the riverbeds. The pollution of the rivers in the 19th century was another act of cover-up. By contaminating the water with industrial waste, the controllers made it unsuitable for use in Tartarian energy systems, while simultaneously creating another plausible explanation for its degraded state. When you look at the architecture of the 19th century, historians constantly cite the logistical problem. How did they move so much stone? This myth of impossible logistics is a fabricated explanation for the existence of Tartarian anti-gravity technology. The 19th century controllers had to explain how huge, perfectly dressed stone blocks suddenly appeared on the tops of unfinished buildings. They created an entire industry dedicated to the myth of thousands of horses and laborers supposedly moving these masses. But the reality was different. They were using captured Tartarian transport devices. These were anti-gravity platforms or guided beams capable of lifting hundreds of tons without visible effort. Evidence of this technology was hidden in 1. Fake photographs. Shots depicting complex 19th century construction sites always show huge, empty spaces above the main blocks, as if something extremely large was lifting the cargo. 2. Archival blueprints. They often contain references to lifting magnetic fields or floating loads, which were later edited or explained away as figures of speech. Creating the myth of impossible logistics was necessary to distract attention from the true fact. Even in the 19th century, anti-gravity technology was secretly being used in cities for repair and demolition. When you look at the layout of great cities, you see chaotic medievalism transitioning to planned 19th century grids. This is not evolution. This is deliberate obfuscation of the Tartarian energy geometry. Tartarian cities were built on energy geometry. Streets and avenues were carefully aligned to maximize the collection and flow of free energy. They were a network of resonators, not just pathways. After the mud flood, the controllers faced a problem: how to disrupt this perfect grid without destroying the entire city. They employed the tactic of fake streets. They intentionally, 1. Added dead ends and false angles, creating chaos in key locations, thereby breaking the energy lines. 2. Changed names. They renamed streets that converge at important energy points, concealing their original function and meaning. The faked maps of the 19th century were necessary to make the new, resettled population perceive the city as a collection of random streets, rather than a large, functional schematic. These maps erased entire blocks, which vanished into industrial zones or fire damage, when in reality they were critical and used energy centers. This is the final proof that the cities were not just restored. They were reprogrammed from a great energy machine into a manageable territory of scarcity. The greatest concentration of the architectural lie is not in the public squares, but in the financial districts of major cities. We expose the hidden truth about Wall Street and the City of London. Their monolithic, cyclopean buildings were not built by bankers. They were seized Tartarian energy vaults disguised as financial institutions. You have seen the anti-gravity and the fake streets. If this evidence confirms that the world's financial centers are actually military vaults, make sure you subscribe to the Epoch Reset channel and hit the like button right now, because we are about to reveal the secret tunnel network connecting these banks to the buried Tartarian power cores. Look at the disproportionate scale, the intricate, heavy stone carving, and the massive internal voids of the oldest financial buildings. They were built to store and protect massive, high-energy artifacts, not cash. Their colossal foundations extend impossibly deep, far beyond what is needed for structural support, suggesting they were built to access subterranean power conduits. The controllers of the 19th century recognized that seizing these Tartarian power vaults was the ultimate act of power. By occupying them, the financial oligarchy gained two things. 1. Physical security, a near-impregnable fortress against any surface threat. 2. Symbolic control. They established the illusion that their financial power created the surrounding monumental architecture, thereby legitimizing their control over the entire city infrastructure. The dense concentration of financial activity in these specific locations was a deliberate strategy to guard the hidden power source. The entire financial district is, in essence, a giant, operational Tartarian energy shield, a final fortress maintained by the new elite. Every major city in the 19th century saw the sudden construction of towering, highly visible water towers. We are told they were for simple water pressure. This is a scientific absurdity. These towers were necessary compensators for the severed Tartarian energy grid. The Tartarian cities used water not just for supply, but as a fluid medium for energy conduction, as we saw with the river conduits. When the controllers intentionally polluted and isolated the rivers, they destroyed this system. The resulting energy imbalance caused massive atmospheric pressure fluctuations within the cities. The 19th century water towers were hastily built to act as hydraulic counterweights and atmospheric equalizers. Their great height and massive water volume were designed to stabilize the air pressure and mitigate the strange, localized seismic and acoustic effects caused by the defunct Tartarian energy cores beneath the city. The water tower is a monument to the incompetence of the 19th century elite. They couldn't fix the Tartarian grid, so they built a crude, visible patch. They used the lie of water pressure to normalize these strange, often architecturally mismatched structures. The water towers are a public, visible admission that the 19th century inherited a system far too complex for them to manage. We exposed the fake street scenes, but the most aggressive photographic lie of the 19th century was the creation of fake foundation images. These images were essential to support the grand narrative of building from scratch. When major architectural projects were underway, which were actually excavations, the controllers produced staged photographs showing deep, hand-dug trenches and primitive wooden scaffolding. These images were circulated to convince the public that 1. The building was new. It had a modern, conventional foundation. 2. The work was hard. It required immense, primitive labor, justifying the new social hierarchy. Forensic analysis of these foundation photographs reveals uniformity. The dirt being excavated is always the same fine, homogeneous mud flood sediment. Lack of bedrock. The foundation is often shown sitting on layers of sediment. Not true, stable bedrock. A logical impossibility for such colossal structures. This photographic lie was critical for the 19th century's foundational myth. They needed the public to believe that their work began at ground zero, thereby cleanly separating the current timeline from the memory of the buried Tartarian past. The mud flood was not just about burying cities. It was about the disposal of the enormous volume of sediment. We reveal the shocking truth about the vanished lakes and swamps of the 19th century. They were the final, massive disposal sites for the Tartarian mud. Throughout the 19th century, large, prominent bodies of water near major cities, both in North America and Europe, mysteriously vanished or were drained for development. These weren't development opportunities, they were dumping grounds. The massive, continuous excavation of the mud flood sediment had to go somewhere, and the easiest place was into the deepest, lowest bodies of water. The controllers then used the lie of land reclamation and urban expansion to justify the creation of new land masses. The official records are filled with huge, unexplained land development projects near coastal cities. These areas are, in fact, artificial sediment deposits, the toxic geological residue of the Tartarian collapse. This operation links back directly to the controlled logistics. The movement of this sediment required massive coordination, proving that the 19th century was not a time of independent development, but a single, centrally managed planetary cleanup operation. We have exposed the final secrets of the vanished cities. The financial vaults hiding energy cores, the water towers masking atmospheric imbalance, and the parks concealing power reactors. The 19th century was a total illusion, a complex narrative of progress built on the ruins of a vastly superior world. The true heroes are the forgotten engineers, the Tartarian survivors who encoded warnings in the cement, the blueprints, and the very street grids of the new cities. They ensured that the knowledge of free energy and anti-gravity would not be completely lost. The ultimate philosophical lesson is this: the controller's power is based on the continuous maintenance of the lie of scarcity. They need you to believe that the world is small, resources are finite, and technological progress is slow. We have revealed the final archaeological and logistical lies of the vanishing cities. Now, it is your turn to act. If this video has opened your eyes to the true purpose of 19th century urban planning, then subscribe to Epoch Reset, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment below right now. Tell us, which urban element, the city parks, the water towers, or the vast underground sewers, is the most compelling proof that your city is sitting on the remains of a forgotten energy machine?